then am I with your book way?
Yo, auntie, what that bedasi biom say, mama me quite say, me babe share my story. Auntie, we know it was very personal my story and apart from a personal experience. If it's a miankasa me a mother of enkolamiensa.
Wow, miensa.
Me won kolamiensa. Me penny no or your boy, and I me want to have one so almost 13 November year. Na me ma 2 boys no penny no your boy no and I interfere no boy back on omo mienu nyina omo wo there your friend autism.
Hey,
omo wo it's called the autism spectrum so. And a spectrum no so no quite broad. If you say obia or autism bia no omo timi behave differently. Until you can be autism, it doesn't mean so obia or autism be behave the same way.
Okay.
Omo behaviors near different. Until one end of the spectrum no benya obia maybe okasa otimi ye maybe bia obetimi akwenyi aye akwedwuma I interact well with other people. But on the other end of the spectrum, no, so no, and shall be mean obia the casano and my untimi sure no one casano maybe for the whole of their lives and obey here say obi be so potentially not to me get independent in life. Time be obey here say obi be so. It's it me my 2 boys no almost the end of the spectrum are almost me en casa yet. No obedi 15
on
September Debbie. On kasa ena ni nua ketwa no so enchobedi 13 ono so on kasa nti omo mienu nyina ye very very highly dependent on adult support for their omo ye nyina nti yeah story ne say since omo yankola ye hu said there was an issue omo di 2 science bi wo hono mo a ubetimi die hu say oba no owo issue nti o compare the rate of development now sha kola bia obedu a certain age and we expect to say by that time no kasa by that time no was start here on 90 and by that time no otimi share ade bi now we focus on it now what here say now we interact with you the environment a certain way nti say we observe ya kola no now who say sir development no emma senior wo pena say we say be okay.
How do you communicate with them as a mother? I mean, I'm getting a bit emotional. I mean, as a mother, you know, you have to talk to your child at a certain age. You direct them, do this, don't do that. How are you able to have this bond of a mother and a child? How do you do it?
That's an interesting question because no idea a year day difficult from time almost because once you're massive we name the entire behavior a certain way once you mean control say bibi yana or yarea commodina nenukum bana bibi hana until mu besusa time be no musu which would make you know that there's something wrong but what is wrong. Well,
they can tell you.
Omutimi control. Say bibi homa. And see, it took said miakasa no let's say autism ase. Na me hu say obi a autism no. Sa eniema we ena maybe a hano. And see, initially na guesswork, a lot of guesswork trying to figure out say okay, also what is the problem?
You only have to guess.
It was mostly guesswork right from the beginning. See now we'll try so better say okay we so no mama ni duane a say obejaya so when jaya maybe no mama ni sio so obejaya and shall not be comfort now wa krokro no say so obejaya when jaya now the na kwakot na lose because sane man nyina no ontimi control say Johnson de na crap a ontimi control say Johnson de mintina enuntina maye upset no and shall be sure say messy me home and so meet me in control. It is Sanya Manning it take it time to figure it out and knowing them as a person say because only two boys and now only autism but almost personalities is so different. So it's like knowing 2 completely different people. But I started with say let's say autism nankasa say na me who say obi autism say na ase chere it means say sanema we ne ha no bibi wo no ma ye friend no sensory issues are very very key because enema bebre are sensory related no it's me more behavior affective behavior and that's
no be there hey and no brofo kakrakapa no waka no kabra ye from hana so that we can all understand
just to make it very basic no you can sensory issues are enema are related to touch and I say near what say they are feeling even the texture of your clothes it's more about your senses.
Okay.
And they are tasty. They are tasty. And see, interestingly, no, Onua autism, no, the way I responded to sensations and near these sensory way no near no a different.
Oh.
It's near different from obia so you because a neurotypical person.
Okay.
Obia only autism and obia only neurodiversity.
Okay.
And you know, more responding to some of these senses different. For example, I make I say, nipa me no betimi a autism, but me different. So even with me two boys, you know, more reactions to different senses, no, different. And also, idea I say we parents, I say what I say, me ban autism, no, say na, onya. This particular or experience this sense. Into akwalebi or honomoa on pep bright light. I yet say hey on sini and na obi kwa kodum kanea no. Wouldn't know what them oswa no we dum no. Oswa no we dum no. And so I won't see ase. The ntia oh yes ah. And so here kanea de aya de. And so no so
on pep kanea
no. Hano my man hu nyina no. On sini. Into obedum ne sa or say only net o bob nyina be she. And so now we need say that's the reason. Or because maybe your heart drink keke. And so it affects you negatively or struggle with it. But we had the sound. We say yet hey mete the humming of the air conditioner. I could maybe wa unsimi. A manual and overload.
Okay.
Maybe you were high neurotypical no say no. Yeah, you notice sanya mano. But omo be notice sanya man kitten background noises, sound, so omo notice sanya man you no more responded to it. Into your behavior in a particular way nim piensia or behavior, but they won't notice no or no we notice omo very very
okay, so
very
before I go to her, tell me now you know say ebia ope if water, food, this, that. Have you been able to study them to know that if they are actually doing this or that, it's an indication, say, we hear Diane, we hear so, any idea?
Yeah, auntie. Time out almost Sunday, na a bit tricky. No need a trial and error, but as all moon, and yeah, maybe we'll no more, or move bits me. I'm away who say, or here, Sanya Mano. Yeah, try different ways. You bet sure, send your macassan on bits me a car try and dear here. But and yeah, no more responded to it. But I dear back home to me and say, oh, here, I dear no bits me about the so, sir. No, the wako, baby, or per se, or corner. Now, when who say, when I may pay. And I say, if you are no more, obey me on one cassa bits me, I call, baby, I dear no one. Now I could say, or quack or fa. Your pen say ye Diana, maybe in Sia, Ube was a call fridge and a home. No, China Hono, my home can't cash and show, but who nim no needs you know, with time, no. Now I start saying who say, oh, or call fridge and what it means to say, or pay baby or fridge in him. Now we be now watch one man options, no I share. Other things since what yeah over the years, it's near pictures of Enyama Bebre Omuyusu. And see, yeah, they no a charm. Now, me choosy. So when I'm a pay, and see, my money saying, or me do stage, and on a quite electronic. And see, you know, be on the iPad. Pictures, no, was so. Now, different apps, honomo, your frelmo, AAC, apps, apps are you designing specifically to be bois, for or moonsimi, and use some voice. It's no sign to me clicky. Your pen na app no aka word no amano eno sa no na wo hu say eno ne ade a ohia enti no yense no sa stage no na yedu but it's been a journey.
What do woman back Ghana say?
There be maybe we dey na me time in this you know, but many omo be back.
Enti when I take care of them.
Enti me ni honom se no me kun ni omo na wo honom. Enti ono na all shop.
So let me go to the name again.
Manowi.
Okay, Manowi. Tell me about neurodiversity, and I'm told that different types.
Oh, it's a huge...
How you manage that particular condition.
It's a huge range, as Harriet has said. It's a huge spectrum. So some can be really overloaded easily, and some are just small things that can make, life a little bit easier. It's not about curing autism. There's no cure. You can't fix a disability. It's about us being educated and understanding it's a different world that the child or the person is living with. And I think there are a lot of adults that we don't realise have had autism that have never had a diagnosis or someone telling them, you have this thing that's different about you. You understand the world differently. And so I think it's about us having that inclusive attitude, bringing people into our communities. We say it takes a village to raise a child. Where I come from, it's the same in mine. It takes a village to raise a child. So why do we have to keep them hidden? We have to include them into our world and understand ourselves, how that world looks. What are some of the things that might be different about them, whether they like certain foods or it's too loud. Having a bit of understanding and kindness goes a long way. But it's a huge range. It's not just 111.
Are there any kind of characteristics that you can identify from a newborn baby, maybe 3 months, 4 months, a year, to know that this one or two things indicates that maybe this child is suffering from this?
They talk about there's no verbalization, there's no speaking or responding to, say, a mother. Usually a child will look and respond to the mother, but sometimes the child won't. And that's often the growth is delayed, or the growing aspects are delayed, so it's a little bit slower. But especially they say in children, when they call the name of the child does not respond, and so that's a big, and they can't speak. They can be fixated on something specific, their focus is on that thing, and that can be kind of some early indications, but it could be other disabilities that we don't know. So for autism, it's often about not verbalising. I don't know if you'd say that.
Yeah. And as you said, there's no cure for that.
There's no
for
cure
now.
No.
But I mean, it's increasing these days, especially our part of the world. We have a lot of stories about it, and some of them are, quite outrageous. But is there any reason why the prevalence rates keep increasing?
We were talking about the misdiagnosis. So sometimes you think it's all autism. And in some countries I find that they will diagnose a child with autism because it gives them funding. Okay. But it could be something like ADHD, where they seem like they're distracted, or they're a problem child in class. They just go. They're everywhere. So I think the issue is understanding that it's not just all autism. It could be maybe ADHD. They could have other, what would you say?
Conditions, global developmental
delay. Yeah. Fetal alcohol syndrome. That can affect, some children where, the development is delayed. So because of even poverty is a huge factor where there's neglect and poverty.
It can cause that?
Yeah, if they're not looked after as a small baby.
Okay.
Yeah, so it can affect their development as well.
So alcohol, poverty.
Yeah.
But that's not necessarily autism.
Okay.
No.
It can cause other issues.
Other issues.
So, for example, a pregnant mother taking in alcohol can cause a child to have. Oh, my man can't cheat. And so, yeah, funny say, about when you say onom ensa alcohol woman, a bit to me affected akwala na o carry no. and tiano sano one year careful obe work or and when your condition be a friend of fetal alcohol syndrome.
Okay.
It's only a type it falls under the special needs it's sanya ubisa manueno say yaka neurodiversity na different types of conditions. Autism, yaka autism science in Crawford, I am familiar with the term autism. But any any additional need and as a special educational need to think about different types. 1 year careful ube share no aka say autism and so yes sanity. E to dey be obi be catch say me ba autism so be share akwala no na cerebral palsy. And I be share
it's not the same.
There be different. Cerebral palsy and autism are two very, very, very different things.
It's a neurological.
Yes. And see, for example, autism, there are a triad of impairment. And yama means say be wohono moa. Obeshe obi autism no wasani manibi. It does not matter which end of the spectrum nipa no. So to me kaso, to me ankaso. Obeshe no na sane mane di obe notice sane mane bi obi kwa to make say obia or autism spectrum so e just say ebi mo more severe to the point to say o hwe sane man na it stands out to you and sane man no ba ko ye communication and by a kind of communication and social interaction and your communication as in nipanity kasa
the ability to relate to people.
Okay, exactly. It's got a lot to do with sanya one nipanso interact. Obi o ha one ne kasa ba wenim kontimation. On to me my eye contact on feeling comfortable on person no be kasa onya kana time bia on person on other people interact and only the origin of the word autism no is the meaning no share into me me enkrofo almost share
into myself. Yes, it's all about me.
It's other people around you know yeah to say objects and facilitators of their need. For example, me man say, no time or pay and obema hug. What try say woman hug be push you away on you ready. On their term. A lot of things they are very much on their term. So
it's all about when they want something to be done.
Exactly, and you obey initiative. But they are initiating all about them. Internally, the communication, the social interaction, or be out to make kasa, but it means oh yes, stress that na kasa ni na yera. I feel no struggle for words, na adani behavior. Into obi beka say oh me bani violent or behaving negatively, maybe wa bomb and now what so or to niama no breaky things. But your friend or crisis point, obia or autism, or do stage bia, maybe why you're so overwhelmed because of all the sensory things, And I say they are open. Won't see I say, you are not responding to that. Instead, say only me expressing it, Maybe I had no nikasano, but tell be wakasano, but maybe I walk no. Your friend of crisis stage, to me to stage na done behavior. It's your use behavior to communicate to you. And it's so important say you be send ya be boa no. Because one boa kwala no send ya chesa wo boa no. Now we who send ya also be expressing a home, we who send ya obe live a regular everyday life. So be we say no crisis, no one share cry because just a mental health issue.
And so then your mental health.
And so now maybe just because the child is not being understood, and the person is not being understood, the need it's not being met.
Okay, you've been in Ghana since December, and you visited places and parents with children with autism. Tell us, what are some of the things you found, and what do you think we can do as a nation?
Oh, it's big.
It's big.
It's big. I think simply talking about it now is really good and creating awareness. But also, I think schools and communities have a huge responsibility to, understand the world and listen to parents and hear what are the difficulties, what are the strategies they've tried, and having like a multi-team approach, not just one parent doing everything themselves, not just the school telling their parents what to do, or doctors, or it's speech and language therapists, it's occupational therapists, physiotherapists if they need it, families, communities, saying this person is in our world, how do we raise them to be part of society and feel included and valued as a person, because they're human beings. So how do we do that? It's by understanding, hey, they might not like, I don't know, maybe they don't like bonku, sorry, but maybe they just want rice, and that's just how they are, or they want food that is this colour, or it's, maybe, they need to be in an environment when they start to get a little bit agitated, we can see their body language change, they can get stiff and, a bit, closed off. We need to put them somewhere where they feel it's quieter and it's more relaxed and they can just rest. Because like Harriet was saying, it's a lot to take in. I think as a nation, talking about it, understanding that disability is not curable, you don't expect someone to have a permanent physical, like maybe you're in a wheelchair. You're not expecting them to get better, are you? So why do you think someone with a neurodiversity is going to get better, or that you can fix them? So how do we understand that world? So I think it's about talking about it, having a whole community approach, professionals and parents. Yeah.
Now, on education, what do you think our schools can do? Because they also need education. And I have not come across any specialized school for children with that condition. What do you think we can do as far as the education system is concerned?
I know of a school called Multi-Kids Inclusive Academy, inclusive being that there's kids that have a range of disabilities and kids that don't have disabilities. Okay. It's in Ajingano, I think it is.
Ajingano.
Yeah, and so they try and support other schools by educating them. But with schools, I think they have to have, like, we call it a sensory profile if needed, and saying this person, like we give them their story. This is their name, this is their family dynamic, these are things they like, they don't like. When they get like this is what it can look like, this is how you can bring them down, so it helps teachers. So they're not constantly having crisis moments like Harriet mentioned.
Are there any specific areas that you think we can start the education? I mean, educating families, communities where we have children with autism. Is there any specialized means or way we can educate communities and families so that at least they will come to appreciate the fact that this is not curable and these are the ways to deal with children with this kind of disability?
Professionals need to be educated. So medical professionals, doctors. It's not just, okay, take these tablets and they'll be fine. We can drug them up and make sure that they're compliant, they do as they're told. That's not a lifelong fix. So I think it's about starting from professionals, from babies, having a multi-team approach, all therapists involved together with family, and educating the family as they go to say, this is what's happening with your child, this is what they'll need as they get older, and then when they transition into school, this is what the school need, and as they transition out of school, what is in their local community where they can be, empowered to be a, important member of society and be part of the community rather than just kind of shunned.
But were you able to identify the conditions in which these children were in? I mean, in terms of clothing, housing, feeding, and all that.
I haven't gotten to that level here in Ghana, but I know in New Zealand you go into situations where families are poor, believe it or not, even in a Western country. Families are poor. And so they have their main focus is, how do I pay rent? How do I feed my children that aren't neurodiverse, as well as the person that's neurodiverse? You have to often address those topics as someone that's advocating or someone that's supporting a family as an assistant. Look at those topics. How do we get you food? Okay, that takes that stress away. Okay, now let's look at the person that's got the need. What do you need to help you cope with this young person? And then you engage those services. Or what's in the community? What is in your community? Do you know of any groups? Do you know of any other parents that have the same, issues? So I think it's about, talking about it, getting more awareness is a good start.
For example, some questions now be saying, one of the things your organization is a Sparkles Foundation.
That's our foundation.
You call out into deprived communities. You call out to go and see Onua, MP Emba the areas omo benya support no ye ko out to them into ye kwa local hospital e wo hono no and our local schools e wo ha omo nim families na omo struggle with those things no omo na ye ne omo collaborate ye ne omo eye adwuma na omo try omo mo hia sa help no mo timi try and help when so nim tackling poverty and the needs of the child no into a told be ye donations ye the entire and books omo de besia their toys and colano e de be dia grow e wo fie into ye donations by the ma families not directly because before I be kono ye ni makolani age ye prepare na ya
over figure that way
6th August.
August. So at least we have some few days. So we can have another round of a show on how we can help families and communities where some of these children can be found.
Yeah.
So I think that will be a good one. And to say, your friend in Tomba, we have so many descriptions for such children. I mean, they as human as we are. We are no bosomba. You know, you may say she on show ya so na fe yetimi adwenje no kwan e be faso ye be boa nkwade tesa wo ye mame nana mama ground did a wonderful job in one of her episodes actually talked about autism and its related matters and